Hello students, you are welcome to my class today. Today we are going to be looking at the poetic devices and themes of the poem Rere by Niyi Osundare. But before we go into that, I'd like us to remind ourselves of what we did in our previous class. In our previous class, we talked about poetry, and we defined poetry as the expression of inner feelings through the use of figures of speech and other literary devices. We went further to identify some types as dirge, elegy, ballad, ode, sonnet, epitaph, and we gave meanings to each and every one of them. We also looked at the distinguishing features of poetry. When I say distinguishing features of poetry, those features that are peculiar to poetry, those features that make poetry different from the other branches of literature. One of them that we looked at was that poems are divided into lines, verses, and stanzas. And we said a stanza is a group of lines that express the same thought in poetry, and it is separated by another by a blank line. For instance, if we have 7 stanzas in a poem, each of those stanzas are going to be separated from the other by a space or a blank line. So if you go back to the notes of last week, you will see various examples depicting stanzas. And another feature of poetry is poetry allows the use of archaic words. And what did we say is archaism? We defined archaism as the use of ancient words or outdated or old-fashioned words. Words like that today can only be found in the Bible. And remember, the Bible was written very many years ago. Examples of archaic words are die, thy, thou, thou, thee, stoppeth, cometh, thinketh, and so on and so forth. And there are a lot of examples to also demonstrate that in the notes of last week. 3, poems are centralized or indented on both sides. In other words, a poem is written at the middle of the paper. The lines do not run from margin to margin as we have in other branches of literature. And 4, lastly, we said a person who writes poems is called a poet or a bard. Okay. So today we are going to be looking at the poetic devices and themes in Rere by Niyi Osundare. Having looked at what a poem is, the definition, the features of a poem, we'll proceed to the poetic devices and themes in Rere. And at the end of this class, I expect that you should be able to define poetic devices, analyze a poem illustrating these devices, define a theme, and point out the themes in Rere by Niyi Osundare. We will be able to do all of these if you pay rapt attention to the lesson. Alright, what we have here is a revision of previous lesson, which we have already done. We looked at the features of poetry. Said poetry is divided into lines, verses, and stanzas. And 2, poetry allows the use of archaic words, and we said archaism means ancient, outdated, or old-fashioned. Our poems are centralized or indented on both sides. Lastly, a person who writes poems is called a poet or a bard. And recall that we discussed the poem itself in Rere by Niyi Osundare. It's all about having a kind heart that the poem it is generally believed among the Yorubas that a good man does not come to any ill or harm. That is, somebody who has kind-heartedness, who is kind-hearted, doesn't really come to any harm or ill. It is not as if such a person is not going to undergo challenges in life. He is going to undergo challenges in life, but because of the kind-heartedness that he has, he will overcome those challenges. All right, we said all this in our last lesson. And what are poetic devices? A farmer, for instance, has tools that he works with: the cutlass, the hoe, and what have you. A fisherman will make use of the sink, the line, the hook, and other fishing items. The carpenter, for instance, is going to make use of materials like nail, wood, hammer, and what have you. But for a poet, what are those materials that he's going to make use of? First of all, those materials that he needs to make use of in the course of writing his poem are called poetic devices. Those materials that he is going to make use of to make his poem come out alive, to give meanings to his poem, is what we call poetic devices. Poetic devices are tools used by the poet to enhance the meanings of his poem. Examples of such devices are metaphor, simile, personification, irony, diction, onomatopoeia, etc., etc. And we have here a picture of personification. And what does personification mean? Personification means giving human attributes, human qualities, human characteristics to inanimate objects. And what are inanimate objects? Inanimate objects are non-living things, things that do not have life. But by the time they are being personified, in other words, by the time they are being given human qualities, they cannot do things that only human beings can do. And when we say they can do things, that you not literally mean, it doesn't literally means that they can do those things, but they have meanings. And remember, we are looking at personification as a poetic device. Let's look at the example here. It said, the leaves danced across the lawn. Ordinarily, leaves cannot dance, but they have been personified. They have been given that human attribute of what? Dancing. So what it means here is maybe the wind blew the leaves across the lawn. Other examples of personification are Bola's shoes are laughing. When we say Bola's shoes are laughing, it means that Bola's shoes are scattered, are worn out. So you can imagine a worn out shoe, maybe having been scattered at the front or all over. Such a shoe is said to be what? Laughing. All right. The table is dancing. The table can dance, but if we personify the table to be dancing, it means that the table is not stable, it's not balanced. Okay, let's think of another example. The moon is peeping. The moon is, to peep means to spy, to look at something without showing every part of your body. Maybe just bring out a little part of your head. So for us to say the moon is peeping, we are saying that the moon is not yet a full moon. The moon is just coming out. We said another example of personification is the sun is smiling. Many of us have seen a picture of a smiley sun. I think there is one in your English textbook J2. So we say the sun is smiling, means that the sun is what? Shining. So these are examples of personification, and it is one of the devices that a poet will make use of to make his poem come out alive, to make it very beautiful. So instead of just saying, for instance, that Bola's shoes are worn out or scattered, a poet can decide to use the line, Bola's shoes are laughing. And by the time you imagine, it gives you the ability to imagine a scattered shoe more. Alright, so that's what I mean by what poetic devices. Those materials that a poet is going to make use of in the course of writing his poem are what I would call poetic devices. Okay, let's look at the poetic devices in Rere by Niyi Osundare. The poet employed the following poetic devices in the poem. We have diction, we have tone, we have irony, and we have metaphor. By the time you look at the notes you have been given, each and every one of the term here has been explained with examples. What is a theme? A theme is the central message that the poet wants to pass across to the reader. What is the poem all about? What does it want us to know as the reader? What is the essence of the poet writing that poem? That is the message he is trying to pass across to the reader, and that is what is termed a theme. A theme is the central message that the poet wants to pass across to the reader. And please take note, a poem could have more than one theme. Depends on the messages the poet is trying to pass across, and again the length can also come to play here. Themes in Rere. The poem has the following themes. Kindness, of course, that is what the poem majorly talks about, that a person who is kind-hearted doesn't come to any ill, it doesn't come to any misfortune. He is going to pass through challenges, of course, but because of his kind-heartedness, he is going to triumph at the end of every challenge. He is going to scale through. And we have number 2, successful living. Of course, somebody who is not going to be surmounted by challenges is going to have a successful life. Okay, and this is Professor Niyi Osundare. This is picture right here, and I have a brief background of the poet. Niyi Osundare was born in Rere, Ekiti, Nigeria in 1947. He is an essayist, a dramatist, a literary critic, a lecturer, and a poet. He is one of Nigeria's most celebrated poets. So I'm very sure that by the end of this class, when you see the picture of Professor Niyi Osundare anywhere, you'll be able to recognize him. You can tell his picture from those of Wole Soyinka, William Shakespeare, J.P. Clark, what other literary giants do we have? Yes, even Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Of course, you can only tell the difference between Niyi Osundare and Chimamanda being a woman, but there are several other literary giants. But I just want you to have a picture of Professor Niyi Osundare, so that when you come across him anywhere, you will be able to identify him. Alright? By the time you go through our notes, the one you have in week 2, you see so many pictures and even videos explaining the lesson. Please, I want you to make use of your notes and comment box to ask questions on any area that is not clear to you, and I will be very glad to respond to such questions. And again, there is a quiz at the end of this lesson. Attempt it. See how well you will be able to fare. don't worry, just try to attempt it, and there is always room for improvement. Okay, for today this is goodbye. I hope to see you all again in our next class, and please stay safe, and don't forget to make use of your notes and comment box to ask and respond to questions, and again attempt your quiz at the end of this class. See you in my next class. Bye.